I am here with Thaddeus, and we should be live at the moment. So do give me a one in the comments if you see me and hear me. And yes, I think we will be live now. Yeah. So, guys, tonight's topic is humanism. It's the man-made atheistic religion, and it is a religion. It was founded explicitly and specifically as a religion to compete with, to basically undermine, to attack, and to replace Christianity, specifically Christianity. And Thaddeus is joining us, and thank you again, Thaddeus, for joining me.
Happy to be here. Thank you for having me on. I'm really excited to take this look at secular humanism. We started by looking at socialism, then started to look at the definition, and then we spent some time looking at the definition of atheism. And now we're getting to the real heart of modern atheist movements. Almost every atheist you talk to today, whether they use the term or not, will be some form of humanist. So we're going to look at how this movement is not really based on pure reason or based on science, but in fact is very much a religion, a man-made religion, a religion that man has made in his own image.
That would be very, very true. So, yeah, guys, as you see, the title is Humanism, Secular Fundamentalism, and it's Man-Made Religion. And these are secular fundamentalists. These are fundamentalists. They are very, very serious about pursuing their goals. They are zealots when it comes to things like abortion. They are zealots when it comes to things like tolerance and so on. And I've got Antifa in the background because, well, Antifa are not Baptists, I'm pretty sure. I would say they are atheists. These are humanists. They're fighting for humanist goals because atheism is historically, in terms of modern atheism, it is very tightly linked, integrally linked with socialism. And socialism is a revolutionary, in other words, a violent ideology that uses violence to achieve its political goals. So humanism has led to feminism, humanism has led to the transgender movement, humanism has led to the breakdown of logic. So, yeah. And he never returned as a horse, says Lloyd. I really enjoyed the shorts. They're like little daggers of truth. Well, thank you. I do appreciate that. Yeah, I had to learn how to make them, and I'm glad those are useful and appreciated. So welcome everyone. Thank you all very much for being here. I see some new faces as well and some old faces. Dragon, as always, thank you very much. And so yeah, guys. So Thaddeus, in terms of the last, and from the audience as well, it's always good to get your feedback. The Katie Nagurski, welcome. Thank you very much for being here. Um, on our last show, when we wound down the definitions of atheism, I mean, do you feel that through the series, I convincingly, with solid evidence, displayed the fact that atheism is anything but merely a lack of belief, merely a psychological state? Because this is supported by roughly zero academic sources, and I went through nearly 60 of them. And all of them state that this is an active state of disbelief. It is an active ideology that is anti-Christian, and that this idea of a psychological state is unfounded. I mean, do you think that I provided solid evidence against that?
Absolutely. I mean, you looked at source after source, top academic sources from the best universities in the world, most of which were written by atheists, and they all seem to agree that atheism, properly defined, is the positive position that there is no God, i.e., that it's an answer to the question, is there a God, yes or no? The answer is no. It's not merely a lack of belief or a lack of position. And once you take a position, whether it's a yes position or a no position on any issue, then you are responsible for providing evidence for your position. The atheist will tell us it's impossible to prove a negative. And that's not what we're talking about. They're moving the goalpost here. The 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 point is not which position has absolute proof, because absolute proof is not a thing outside of the field of hard logic. In the real world, absolute proof is not something that exists. The question is, where does the evidence lead? What does the preponderance of evidence show? And the atheist typically doesn't want to supply any evidence. They just want to sit back and say, I reject your evidence, therefore I win. And that is not an honest position to have.
Yeah. In fact, I got numerous comments stating, that's not my scholar. I don't follow that scholar. Here's my definition. Now, the weird thing is, I provided over 50, nearly 60 definitions, and they rejected literally every single one and said, oh, here's my definition from this dictionary. This is the one that's the right dictionary. Or, here's my personal definition. You need to believe me. Now, of course, if a dozen atheists comment, they'll say, well, here's my personal definition. Now, who are they as an authority that we need to take their definition on board as if they are the Pope of atheism? These are random commenters on YouTube. Why do I need to take your personal definition as the only correct? It is like Abdulism, Sergeant Grinch. It is exactly like Abdulism. So if everybody has his own private definition, and these definitions would obviously change, well, conveniently whenever they're in a tight spot, why would I want to listen to that if there's no orthodoxy? Don't they have orthodoxy? Isn't there some kind of scientific position that they take? And of course, I'm providing scientific evidence from top academics, and they rejected every single one. I thought these people like facts, but that seems not to be the case. Any last comment before I move into today's topic, Thaddeus?
Yeah, I would just add that it's clearly a word game, because whatever you define as, let's say theoretically that the random atheist defining atheism as whatever stupid thing they want to define it as is correct. There's still a word for the position that you're saying, no, there is no God. So if you're not defending that position, then you're not actually contradicting my position at all. You're just sitting there pretending like you don't have to do anything.
Yeah, well, so yeah, atheism seems to be the denial of the fact that atheism is a denial of the existence of God. So
well put.
yeah. So guys, today we're going to talk about the founding of humanism. So effectively speaking, atheists claim to be humanists. They don't follow the lawgiver, which is in the Christian doctrine, this would be God, or in the Judaic doctrine, God, who is the lawgiver who provided an eternal moral law. They follow a series of man-made laws based on logic, reason, and science, because these guys are the epitome of logic, reason, and science. That's why they have the big brains, right? So, of course, we're going to have a look at the history of the secular humanist movement. Most especially, we'll be concentrating from the late 1920s up to about the 1990s. We'll be going through that period, the formative period, because secular humanism really dates as a modern phenomenon to the late 1920s, early 1930s, although we will delve as far back as the 4th and 5th century BC. So we'll be tying together a lot of loose ends. So the first thing I'm going to do today, I'm going to go to this document here. And Thaddeus, feel free to jump in at any time. You actually have a background in academia, and so on. So I just have as someone called me, I'm an attack dog, So I don't know.
Not a bad description.
So this is Richard Joe Crawford. He gained his PhD in 1965 at the University of Oklahoma, and his PhD was on an analysis of the argumentation within the religious humanist movement. Now, of course, atheists, these are all atheists, right? These are atheists, and they believe that, well, there is no God. They also believe it's a non-position. They'll be happy to tell you any day, atheism is not a religion, humanism is not a religion, it's a non-position, it's merely the lack of belief in a God. And of course, he's going to tell us about the detailed doctrine, because so many of the academic sources I provided stated atheism is a doctrine. It is a set of principles. It is a belief based on a series of ideas. Right. Now, proto-humanism, yes, we will get to ancient Greece. Kitsune. So, I'm just going to go through a handful of pages. We'll cover this in more depth in the future, but let's have a look here. So, he's discussing an analysis of the argumentation within, to repeat, the religious humanist movement, because they started out as a religion. They wanted everybody to know that they were a religion until it backfired on them, of course. Right, now let's have a look at the contents here. So, of course, this chapters 4 and 5 were interesting to me. Identification with science and the scientific method. They went through a lengthy period of decades of promoting the idea that science was atheistic and humanist, and to be humanist was automatically to be scientific, and to be rational. And in fact, that to be religious, you were then irrational. You were an idiot, basically. They went through a very long period of that, and he discusses the propaganda that they were putting out, the whole approach that they put out. And of course, he goes through a refutation of traditional religious beliefs. So they speak of the evils inherent in the Christian religion and evaluation of the humanists' argumentative pattern. So he actually breaks down their propaganda. Now, it should be noted that Lenin, Stalin, and others, even Marx, but really Lenin picked up the ball and ran with it here, is that he stated that the socialists, communists, socialists / communists have to promote the propaganda of atheism. Again, and I've had no humanist, atheist, etc. answer me, but how do we distinguish between the atheist comments and the propaganda of atheism from socialists who are spreading socialist propaganda? How do we distinguish between the two? Because if they're identical, does this mean that all atheists are socialists, or they're useful idiots of socialism? Your thoughts, Thaddeus?
We definitely see the artifact of this in contemporary atheism. We see all these people who think that they're super smart, and they'll say that I'm just following the science. I'm a scientist, and then these are also people who think that a mole is a little furry creature and they don't know what a joule is. They don't know the fundamental measures of science, and yet they're acting like they're super smart and they have all this great intelligence. And I'm not saying that someone needs to have a scientific background to have a position on the theological question, but don't pretend like you're just being rational and following the evidence when you don't even have a clue what the evidence is. Just be honest and say, I have a position based on my feelings, because that's ultimately what it boils down to. 95% of the time when I talk to an atheist, they feel like there is no God, and that's what their position is based on. And or they hate religion, and therefore they're atheists. But it has nothing to do with facts. It has nothing to do with knowledge. It's all about their personal experience and their personal feelings. And if they were just honest about that, there wouldn't be so much of a problem. But the problem is they assert that they're following the knowledge. They assert that they're going where the logic leads, and anyone who doesn't have their position is illogical, stupid, uneducated, and then so they have this amazing arrogance about them when in fact they're of average intelligence on average, shockingly enough.
Actually, 70% of the people that you know are actually below average, statistically speaking. Right, so moving on from that bombshell of intelligence. So, it should be noted that this movement has been called New Humanism. It's also been called Scientific Humanism, Atheistic Humanism, Religious Humanism, and Naturalistic Humanism. So all of these are just humanism. They just like to give themselves different labels. So these labels sprout as quickly as genders have. And someone asked, Green Eagles asked, do they worship science, or do they worship themselves as humans? Yes, they do. That actually is part of the doctrine. This is part of the general beliefs, that they worship themselves as a religion. And then do they worship science? Yes, that one could make that claim, that they follow what could be called scientism. So yes, certainly. And this has been actually built into the structure of atheistic beliefs through the humanist movement, which is basically an organized atheistic movement. And so all of these are just varieties of humanism. They're all just humanism. It's not like they are completely different animals. Notice it says here that by numerical standards, humanism is still a minor movement, but it has come increasingly to have a place in American philosophical and religious thought. In a survey on religion in this century, this guy at Columbia University devoted a chapter to humanism and asserts that a fourth faith is in the making. We will discover that humanist leaders, the early humanist leaders, stated that they are the fourth religion. After Judaism, Catholicism, Protestantism came humanism as the fourth faith, the fourth major faith in the world, and they call it a faith. Let's continue. I just want to go through a few pages of this document here. They speak of that they will do fellowship, which, as we know, is a very much a church thing. Humanism as an independent religious movement, and it lives as a positive religious faith. All of these intertwined. These things will all come. Well, you will see that it is this positive. Humanism is important that it may well be called the fourth main religious option, along with Judaism, Roman Catholicism, and Protestantism. So there we go, and I'll do a couple more pages here. We'll see that the most recent of the humanitarian cults is that very considerable movement, which is known as the New Humanism. And Willard Sperry of Harvard points to the humanist goal of becoming a powerful denomination. Okay, so that's all fine and well. Let's have a look here. The most persistent and consistent stream of ideas within humanism, permeating all of its literature, involves a statement or an argument of the humanist religious and philosophical position. So these atheists that are humanists, that aren't religion, that have a non-position, don't believe in anything, spend an inordinate amount of time of honing arguments to literally undermine and destroy religion and to prove the superiority of their lack of thinking. That is.
A couple of people pointed out that it is talking about the fourth religion, and they're like, well, what about Islam? And you could also add, what about Hinduism or Buddhism or whatnot? And it just reflects the prejudice inherent.
It's Western. It's anti-Christian.
Right. Yeah. The prejudice inherent in the foundation of this, where they're not even considering other parts of the world. They're only looking at the United States and Europe, and they're thinking this is what everyone is. They're not even, they're so prejudiced while claiming to be free thinkers and beyond prejudice that they don't even think that, the majority of the world is non-Christian.
Yeah, no, this was an assault on Christianity. I mean, if you go back to the Enlightenment, this was a flat-out assault on Christian doctrine, nothing else. So they speak of the relationship of humanist ideas to those of other ideologies or religions, and an analysis of the patterns of argument with which humanists defend their ideology and attack opposing ideologies. Okay, and I'll just end off here so we don't go too far into this one. And they say that this traditional zeal of evangelism has not bypassed humanism. As we will learn, humanists are inevitably becoming militant and are organizing for missionary activity. Humanists have been open and frank about their desire to create growth, right? They hope to establish a mass movement, and their literature is replete with talk of expansion, of proselytizing of new members, and at least one broad audience could be called the outsider or the non-humanist that they want to target to join their religion. So, Thaddeus, have I made a valid point? I mean, obviously, any atheist is going to come along and just literally dismiss whatever I've said. But based on what we've seen, what are your conclusions? That this is a religious movement, it is proselytizing, and it is antithetical to the status quo of Christian doctrine, at least.
Absolutely, this goes right along with something we've talked about offline, where when a Muslim comes in and they just leave a copy-paste comment that has nothing to do with the video, it's annoying, but we at least know what they're doing. They're trying to earn points with their imaginary God.
Mm-hmm.
They think they're getting some sort of benefit out of that, spreading Islam. Of course, they're delusional, but at least it makes sense why they think that. The atheist comes in, they leave copy and paste comments that have nothing to do with the video, and doesn't make any sense. At least if we take their stated position seriously, that everyone should just be pursuing his own happiness, but which of course we mean maximum carnal pleasure, because there is no meaning to the universe. You have no value, no purpose. Yet they seem to think that it's really important that everyone else believe their religion. Very interesting.
Interesting. And they are very, very focused on the refutation of traditional religious beliefs and to prove the superiority of that. So let me dive into the presentation. That's a 207-page thesis. I've read it. I read every page. I took notes. So, yeah. So anyway, exactly. So Righteous says, yeah, if my happiness is rape and murder, what should we do? Well, there you go. They need to answer that question. So let's continue. So let's go to 1943. This is William Temple, the former Archbishop of Canterbury. He sounded an alarm in 1943. He was reported to have said Christian tradition was in danger of being undermined by a secular humanism, which hoped to retain Christian values without Christian faith. And we will see that, yes, they actually are trying to replace Christianity with scientific Christianity without they want the values, but yeah. So we're going to see that this is going to become the case. So some very short, some very basic background. Well, the term humanism is related. Now, according to this on fordham.edu, this university, the term humanism is related to the writings of pre-Socratic philosophers. So we can trace it to the 5th century BC, for instance. These writings were lost to European societies until Renaissance scholars rediscovered them through Muslim sources. I was very intrigued to discover that little fact because I've always felt that Islam had its dirty hand, sock puppeting this whole thing. But that's an investigation for another time. So this was discovered through Muslim sources and translated them from the Arabic into European languages. And this is an article called Islamic Political Philosophy, Al-Farabi, Avicenna, and Averroes, right? Now, Al-Farabi, now we need to know, there's a guy called Plato. You may have heard of him. Plato is a very famous philosopher. Plato has a lot of blood in his hands because Plato inspired an incredible amount of totalitarianism. If you're looking at socialism as a totalitarian philosophy, Plato gave socialist totalitarianism wings. He really provided. I'll go into that another time. Al-Farabi, the idea of the caliphate. So Al-Farabi is the Islamic philosopher who developed the idea, amongst other things, of the caliphate. How he developed the idea of the caliphate was, as Islam was expanding and growing, they needed a system to manage a state. Remember, these were camel herders and goat herders. He then discovered Plato's The Republic, which he then translated into a format that was suitable to mix with Islam. However, he interpreted Plato through the Neoplatonists as well, which means that there's a few other issues attached to that. But understand that the idea of humanism wasn't cleanly taken from the Greeks, but imported through an Islamic lens. That's very interesting. Your thoughts on the implications, Thaddeus?
Definitely interesting. I don't want to say that this definitely means that Islam is responsible for the movement, but it's definitely interesting that Muslims will take the same information and they'll phrase it a different way. They'll be like, Islam is responsible for the Enlightenment. Without Islam, you don't have any science. Of course, that claim is nonsense. That whatever role the Muslims played, it was very minor.
Yeah.
They play this role of preserving the pagan literature, the pre-Christian literature. But it is interesting that it's compatible with Islam, these pre-Christian pagan ideas Muslims don't have a problem with. And then later Europeans trying to get away from Christianity readopt these ideas. Very, very interesting.
Yeah. No, so guys, the connections are insane. And Katie, thank you very much. I'm really genuinely grateful. Thank you very, very much. I really appreciate that. Now, early human societies adopted the same statement of principles. Now, without context, I'm just grabbing this from this is in so many different sources. So I'm just going to give a quick rundown of this, just to give a basic overview of roughly what humanists believe. They share the belief that morality is independent of theology. So no matter what stripe they are, morality is independent of theology. There's no moral lawgiver who provides transcendent moral law. It's basically what humans make up, right? That's their belief. The affirmation that new moral problems have arisen in modern industrial society which have not been adequately dealt with by the world's religions, meaning Christianity. The duty to engage in philanthropy in the advancement of morality, George Soros is doing philanthropy in the advancement of his morality, for instance. Let's think of it that way. Twitter was doing philanthropy in the advancement of their morality. The belief that self-reform should go in lockstep with social reform. So, we need to change ourselves to adapt to the modern times. Times have changed now. We need to be tolerant. Tolerance is literally one of the major and compassion, of course, the values that go with humanism. The belief that self-reform and then the abolition of monarchical governance of ethical societies, these words mean very specific things in their context. And the agreement that educating the young is the most important aim. And we will see exactly what they mean by educating the young. This means indoctrinating the kids. This is like when men in women's underwear want your 2-year-old to sit in their lap so they can read library books to them. That kind of educating the young. Thaddeus, you have a smile on your face.
Well, yeah, I was smiling at your last thought there, where you could just take the word educating and you could change that to brainwashing. And,
yes.
It's basically the same thing. But none of these principles are all that offensive on the surface. The problem is that they've eliminated the basis. It goes back to that first one, the belief that morality is independent of theology, that none of the things they stand for are like blatantly horrible things on the
Yeah.
surface, but you can see the logical implications of where they lead, where you can just change your morality to the whims of what people want. And then there really are no bounds. Right now we're seeing it with the success of the homosexual movement, and which has then led to this new movement of the transgender movement, which is not yet successful, but is definitely gaining ground. And there's no limit to where it could go next.
Yeah.
I'm not saying I know where it will go, but there's no actual limit. When you have no foundational basis for your morality, the morality can change continuously. Who knows? Maybe if in 50 years people are going to be arguing that pedophilia is perfectly natural. Just like the same type of arguments that were advanced for homosexuality can be advanced for our
Yeah.
pedophilia. It's a natural attraction. How dare you tell someone that's a
Well, don't forget,
natural?
they see pleasure and the pursuit of happiness as the highest of moral good. So if it makes you happy and brings you pleasure today, which we'll see are part of their aims, then it's good. And you denying that would be, well, denying the narcissist his pleasure, right?
And likewise, it could go a completely different direction. Right now, of course, the movement is very anti-racism, but who knows? Maybe we'll decide that a group of people is inferior, and we should bring back slavery to increase our happiness. The elite group's happiness by enslaving those less elite people.
Yeah.
Who knows? It could go anywhere.
Talk about woke. Don't forget, woke destroyed the new atheist movement. Woke utterly shattered the new atheist movement because that's where woke began. So let's copy from God. Let's steal from God. This is a book called Religion for Atheists, a non-believer's guide to the uses of religion by Alain de Botton. And this is him giving a talk at TED. What aspects of religion should atheists respectfully adopt? Alain de Botton suggests a religion for atheists. Let's call it Atheism 2.0, that incorporates religious forms and traditions to satisfy our human need for connection, ritual, and transcendence. Because it turns out that apparently atheists cannot get rid of religion because they find that it actually has uses in society. But let's have a look at some of this. So the premise of this book is that it must be possible to remain a committed atheist and nevertheless find religions useful, interesting, and consoling, and be curious as to the possibilities of importing certain of their ideas and practices. So you can be left cold by the doctrine of the Trinity and yet at the same time be interested in the ways in which religions deliver sermons, promote morality, engender a spirit of community, make use of art and architecture, inspire travel, train minds, and encourage gratitude, blah, blah, blah. So he says here, it's when we stop believing, blah. Okay, anyway, so basically, what can we steal from religion? Because realize religions actually are useful. They're necessary in society. And he goes on to say, so, religions knit communities together in harmony despite our deeply rooted selfish and violent impulses. And we need to cope with terrifying degrees of pain which arise from our vulnerability and the death of loved ones. And so the urgent issues which impelled us to make God die, basically because God is dead, we still want resolutions which do not go away when we have been nudged to perceive some scientific inaccuracies in the tale of 7 loaves and fishes. So in other words, what he's saying is that when your uncle dies or your mother dies, at the funeral, you don't want to have a biologist come and give you a lecture on decomposition. It doesn't seem to have that kind of oomph that a good sermon does. Your thoughts, that is?
Well, he's absolutely right that this pure science cannot answer man's questions and man's desires, and the intellectually consistent position of an atheist would be something like, that's because our brains are defective and we perceive value where there is none, or something like that. But no one would follow that, right? To find an atheist that says that, they're in the 1 or 2% of all atheist category. Everyone wants to pretend, from their perspective, that human beings have value, and that's where humanism comes in. Because, like you said, no one wants to go to a funeral and just be told, congratulations, your loved one is going to be good fertilizer for the plants. If atheism is true, there's no reason to have a funeral. Just throw the body in the ground and go about your day.
Yeah, exactly. He says here the error of modern atheism has been to overlook how many aspects of the faiths remain relevant even after their central tenets have been dismissed by the atheists, of course. So we are free to discover religions as repositories of a myriad ingenious concepts in which we can try to assuage a few of the most persistent and unattended ills of secular life. In other words, yeah, we actually need this stuff. It actually has a use, and we're going to strip it out, and we have to make atheism into the new religion. Let's continue. This is Julian Huxley. He was a eugenicist, a humanist, a globalist. Let's have a look at what he says. So, Julian Huxley, scientific humanist. He wrote in an article in 1962, The Coming New Religion of Humanism. A humanist-based religion must redefine divinity. And of course, you as a human being are now the divinity. You are the highest of creation. You are God. I feel sure that the world will see the birth of a new religion based on evolutionary humanism. The beliefs of this religion of evolutionary humanism are not based on revelation. A humanist religion will have the task of redefining the categories of good and evil. I mean, that has biblical overtones all over it. A humanist religion will, like the ancient Greeks, interesting throwback there, or callback, stress excellence. It will go further than the Greek principle and will make the psychological integration and total wholeness an essential aim. That's where you had a lot of quack psychology come through these humanists. And in some sense, this humanist religion will be the equivalent of the state of salvation in Christian terminology. And he says to us here, Sir Julian Huxley, humanism is the fourth faith and the next great world religion. Thaddeus.
Yeah, very interesting material here. Of course, we have him describing it as the fourth faith. We already talked about how that really is just saying that it's anti-Christian, anti-Judeo-Christian, because they don't even acknowledge any legitimacy of any other religion. But he's laying out the groundwork of what humanism is perfectly, minus one thing. He's laying out that, we need to define our own values, we need to decide what's good and evil. What he doesn't say, and what no atheist will ever say, is we just need to pretend there's a basis for these things, because there is actually none in our belief.
Yeah. If you have no transcendent eternal value for a moral law from a moral lawgiver that's transcendent, eternal, then you will literally just, it's opinion. It's, who's to say what's wrong? Right? If it makes you happy, then do it. Right? Let's continue. Let's have a look at Carl Sagan. You may have heard of this Carl Sagan. He wrote, this is in an article on the American Humanist Association website, which is, in theory, the biggest organized atheist association, right, in the US, if not in the world. So this is called Humanist Common Ground is atheism. Hey, did you know that the common ground of humanism is atheism? Good grief. What a surprise. And now, right, let's have a look and see what Carl Sagan said. Now, atheism is more than just the knowledge that gods do not exist. Doesn't he know that atheism is not a knowledge claim? It's not a position. It's just a lack of belief. What is wrong with Carl Sagan? Oh my golly. But atheism is more than just the knowledge that gods do not exist, and that religion is either a mistake or a fraud. Them's fighting words, Carl. Atheism is an attitude, a frame of mind that looks at the world objectively, fearlessly, always trying to understand all things as a part of nature. And we'll see the theme of nature comes up quite a bit with these humanist thinkers. And Carl Sagan was an American astronomer, as you know, cosmologist, author, astrophysicist, astrobiologist, and science popularizer. I took that exactly off the page as it is. I didn't change it. It's science popularizer. Thaddeus, your thoughts before I go to his other statement, which kind of contradicts this one.
It's very interesting. Atheism is this attitude that you need to understand everything in light of nature. Yeah, he's writing this for the American Humanist Association, or at least they're publishing it. Where is the basis in nature for any of their moral principles? I would like to know.
I have no idea, but don't confuse me with the facts. I'm from Africa. It's tough. Just reading is tough, right? I'm having a hard time because now I've got to process another statement he makes that I think might just kind of contradict him. Oh, in 1981, he received the American Humanist Association's Humanist of the Year award. Oh, guess who was American Humanist of the Year 2022? Guy called Anthony. Anthony, small, short guy, medical doctor. Fauci. Yeah. Oh, he was Humanist of the Year 2022. Look it up. Oh boy. Oh boy. So you got to wonder what kind of beliefs he has. Okay. Now let's have a look. Carl Sagan then further says in this book here, Conversations with Carl Sagan, an atheist is someone who is certain that God does not exist. Someone who has compelling evidence against the existence of God. I know of no such compelling evidence. God can be relegated to remote times and places and to ultimate causes. We would have to know a great deal more about the universe than we do know to be sure that no such God exists. Now, the common claim is that he was an agnostic. We just saw in his previous claim, he pretty much claims to be an atheist. And if you read through the notes in his books and so on, and from discussions with friends of his, they state that he was pretty much an atheist. He just wouldn't publicly come out and say so. And remember, atheists want to sell us the idea that Voltaire is a deist. You read Voltaire's own words, he's an atheist. So they don't seem to want to be admitting in public that they're atheists. Your thoughts, Thaddeus, on this? Adam, hey, welcome, man.
I do, yeah, I do wonder why Sagan doesn't want to claim atheism. Maybe it's because he's conflicted. Maybe he believes in atheism, but he knows he can't actually defend it. So publicly, he has to go with this position where I don't know of any compelling evidence against the existence of God, but privately, I am an atheist because I believe it, even though I don't have compelling evidence.
Yeah, that's just that's lazy and sloppy. But yeah, I mean, so I mean, these two quotes go against each other. I mean, these are contradictory. So there's a public face and a private face, and yeah. So of course, when I've spoken to people about what Carl Sagan said, he's not my scholar, and that's not my dictionary, that's not my university, and that's not my encyclopedia. That's what I get from atheists. Yes. Right. Moving on. So let's have a look for. So we'll try and do about 15 slides or so. We're not going to do too many today. So notice that I just grabbed Humanist Canada. This was kind of a random choice. I had a bunch of sites I could choose. American Humanist Association. So I thought, what the hell? Let's go to Canada because, as you know, there are three kinds of humans: men, women, and Canadians. And I thought, let's have a look at the Canadians because Canadians are soft and squishy. They like if if humans were like animals, right? Men would be lions, women would be like foxes, and Canadians would be like pillows. Right, so I thought Canadians are soft and squishy, like pillows filled with marshmallows. Let's go have a look at what they say, right? Canadians are nice people. America's hat is a nice place. Okay, Thaddeus, so do you think I'm going? Do you think I need to just stick with the script here?
You may have just lost some of your Canadian subscribers.
So yeah. Okay, so anywho, so let's go to Humanist Canada. Humanism is a philosophy of life. They've got profound respect for Nazi euthanasia. Why? Because humanism has taken over Canada. Its president is, its prime minister, whatever, Justin, what's his name? Justin Castro is clearly a humanist, right? Don't want to, and they've now made euthanasia legal. Oh, like, hi doc, I'm in pain. I banged my knee against a cupboard. Have you considered euthanasia? We can give you a pill and you can be dead tomorrow. That's literally that is what's happening in Canada now. Oh, you used to serve us as a veteran in the army, but you have injuries. Have you thought of suicide? Do you want to kill yourself? You can come in. We can give you a pill. We can have this done tomorrow. This is literally because atheism devalues human life, and this is exactly what atheist ideas have led to in Canada today. This is happening. Humanism is a philosophy of life stance based on a profound respect. Now, don't forget, the Nazis also promoted euthanasia, right? The Nazis promoted that heavily. Canada is doing it today. Canada, what is the difference between Canadian euthanasia and Nazi euthanasia? It's like, what's the difference? Like the Nazis would bang you over the head with a hammer and the Canadians give you a tablet? It's like just more friendly. Thaddeus, before I go on, your thoughts?
Yeah, I don't know if you get into eugenics in this or if that'll
I
be
do,
a separate
a little bit.
presentation.
Yeah.
But we basically see that the eugenics movement was basically exactly the same as the Nazi movement.
Hmm.
And when the horrors of the Nazi death camps came out post-war, that was kind of the end of the public euthanasia movement, or I'm sorry, the public eugenics movement. But it's worked its way back in little by little
Yeah. No,
through
I'd never.
abortion
Yeah.
and now through ending your life through euthanasia.
No, I will be going into depth. Look, guys, I've got enough material here for like a year's worth of shows. I mean, good grief, I have hours and hours and hours, and I've got old stuff I still have to do. But yeah, on these topics. So basically, they claim to have a profound respect for human dignity and the conviction that we all ultimately are accountable to ourselves and to society. So kill yourself because you're a drain on society. Our worldview is deity-free and affirms our ability and responsibility to lead ethical, according to their definition, and meaningful lives without reliance upon a belief in the supernatural. So we believe that as humanists, that reason and science are the best ways to understand the world around us, and dignity, compassion, kill yourself, here's a pill, should be the basis for how we act towards others. So it's best if you just kill yourself. You are bringing society down because you are. That's what euthanasia taught. That's what eugenics taught. You're disabled. Die. That's exactly what the Nazis were teaching, and they got that from Darwin. Darwin's cousin, rather, Charles Galton. Humanist Canada is committed to advancing free thinking and the freedom of choice in Canada, so we can all live in a fair and equal society. Through ceremonies, religious ceremonies, educational services. Churches also give services. Wonder where they got that idea. Affiliate groups and partnerships. We bring humanism to communities across the country. We proselytize just like a church, and we raise awareness on the national stage. We are a political proselytizing religion. That would be the equivalent of Islam. So, any thoughts before I go on, Thaddeus?
Probably going to come back to this a lot, but again and again, they say all these things, but they have no intellectual basis for us. They say that we believe reason and science are the best ways to understand the world. And then they say we believe in dignity and compassion. What part of reason and science tell you that dignity and compassion are good things? None of it.
Yeah.
They just make this up out of thin air. They build their house in air out of nothing.
Well, because obviously then they're throwing Darwin under the bus here because they're not believing in survival of the fittest. So, I mean, good grief. And as you know, atheists will adamantly swear by Darwin. Darwin is right. Darwin is right. Let's have a look. Now, we've seen this before, the 7 fundamental tenets. We must strive to act with compassion and empathy toward all creatures in accordance with reason. The struggle for justice is ongoing and a necessary pursuit that should prevail over laws and institutions. Sharia law also needs to prevail over all laws and institutions. Okay, so yeah, beliefs should conform to one's best scientific understanding of the world. One should take care never to distort scientific facts. Thank you very, very much. I really appreciate that. Thank you for the donation. So yeah, we should take care never to distort scientific facts. And we must have a spirit of compassion, of wisdom, and justice should always prevail over the written or spoken word. That's great. Now, these beliefs are identical. They are in line with the Humanist Association's beliefs, with basically the standard set of atheist doctrines, and these are the beliefs of the Satanic Temple. That is.
Yeah, you could say that the founders of this organization are just choosing that name to poke at religion, but that's the most generous interpretation you could possibly give. It still makes explicit what they're doing, right? They're countering Christianity. They're anti-Christian in their principles, i.e., humanism, Satanism, fundamentally the same thing, being against Christianity.
Yeah, no, they are very much against Christianity. And again, thank you very much for the support, guys. I'm really so glad that I have such great support. Some really good, people who provide ideas, feedback. So really, it's very humbling, and I'm very grateful for all the support and for the fact that Thaddeus is willing to donate his time and his intellect to this cause as well to help me. Now, let's have a quick look at Anton LaVey. Now, he's Satanism, as he claimed. Now, look, I'm not going to say it is. I'm not going to say it isn't. I didn't look that deeply into it, but I'm just quoting some words I found on a page somewhere. Okay, so let's assume I didn't necessarily get it from Wikipedia or my cousin that has a squint that fell on his head when he was a baby. I'm hoping I'm utilizing at least some sort of credible sources here. But LaVey Satanism is atheistic and described as a carnal religion. I believe we came across the fact that the the atheists were very, very carnal, and the humanists were very, very carnal. That's why life is meaningless, because it allows them to, well, go and, we discussed that 2 days ago. Followers believe that all gods are fictitious, that ultimate importance is found in the self and pursuing self-interest. That would sound like narcissism. Right? This would be narcissism, survival of the fittest, and every man for himself. Satan is not a deity to venerate, but a metaphor. Well, technically, it is the opposer to the will of God, right? But a metaphor, the ultimate adversary of irrationality and religious beliefs. The name Satan comes from the Hebrew for one who opposes God. And your thoughts, Thaddeus, before I go on?
Well, there you go. He just made it explicit what I said. The most generous interpretation is they chose this name because they want to emphasize that they're opposing Christianity. They say religion, but they really mean Christianity. Mm-hmm. And here he's saying it in his own words. Yeah. We don't believe in Satan as a being, but we certainly believe in opposing God, opposing Christianity.
Yeah, correct. Now, you can have secular symbolism, you can have ritual and pageantry, and it's very effective and something that is part of the nature of the human animal. Notice, this is turning religion into a cosplay. They do ape religion. We've seen evidence of that so far. But they want to take the surface aspects of it, turn it into cosplay. The ritual chamber can be a place where you can dramatically perform what I call self-transformational psychodrama. I had no idea religion was about psychodrama. We release the emotions that we find would be injuring us in the regular pursuit of our happiness so that we can let them go. And he says it's not just that we're looking for disorder, chaos, and to undermine Western civilization. In fact, we're trying to endorse for Enlightenment values. So are the humanist associations trying to endorse for Enlightenment values. So let me see. The values of the Church of Satan are Enlightenment values. The humanists claim to be pursuing Enlightenment values. They are bringing reason and respect for science into bettering the human condition. It's crazy. How is it that humanism, Satanism, and Enlightenment have precisely the same values, that is?
Very interesting, for sure.
I mean, am I exaggerating by making that statement? Or am I preventing sufficient evidence?
Not exaggerating. They have the same exact principles and goals and beliefs on paper. There might be some practical differences, but on paper they seem to be identical.
Yeah. So the Satanic Temple 7 tenets ask followers to act with compassion, to respect the freedom of others, and to take care that beliefs don't distort scientific facts. I don't know what atheist is going to disagree with that, but and then of course if we start to present the words of Hitler on Christianity and religion, and of course they're all going to claim, but he was a Christian. Okay, whatever, we'll do that next time. But if you read the words of Stalin, Hitler, Mao, Lenin, Engels, Marx, and then you look at the atheist propaganda, they're identical. So how do we go like, okay, so you guys are clearly not up there with the worst, most violent, genocidal maniacs, atheist maniacs of all time. I mean, you have exactly the same ideas, but you're totally different. I mean, is that a reasonable question to ask? How can you have exactly the same ideas as the worst, most genocidal murderers in history, and yet you're different? Oh my God, Katie says, I'm a former LaVeyan Satanist who was heavily involved with the Satanic Temple and the occult. Wow. There is definitely a blurred belief in Satan as an actual deity within the community. They do make a statement that some do believe in Satan, in the biblical view of Satan. At least in the notes that I've deleted from here, and then some have like this atheistic belief, and some believe in other gods, like Loki or Hindu gods, other evil gods. But that, wow, Katie, that'll be very interesting to know how you. Maybe Thaddeus would be a great person to speak to.
Yeah, I'd love to interview you if you're interested in doing that. So my email can be found on my channel. So reach out to me if you're interested in being interviewed.
Wow, that's a really powerful statement you made, Katie. Thank you for being here, really. Yeah, wow. So let's continue. So humanist Satanism, mostly atheistic. So even Satanism can be humanist. Marx was a humanist. I mean, if you think about it. Let's look at a guy called Ludwig Feuerbach, lived from 1804 to 1872. That's him here, the good-looking guy with the beard. What yesterday was still religion is no longer such today. And what today is atheism, tomorrow will be religion. And you can say, well, he was just being metaphorical, okay? Now, here's my question. What is aphorical, and how do you meta that thing? Thaddeus.
Well, you can't do it scientifically. I'll put it that way.
Yeah. So the view was that atheism would be the new religion. And then, of course, they realized that, hold on, atheism is really just an anti-doctrine. It doesn't really stand for anything. It needs to find things to stand for. So then they realized, hey, we need something called humanism. Instead of like Christianism, we need humanism, right? Or Jesusism, we need humanism. Katie, that'll be fantastic. I would love to hear your story. I mean, this would be amazing. Thank you. Thanks for you know for that statement. That's really, I mean, wow. Ishak Ibrahim, welcome. So now he tells us Ludwig Feuerbach said a lot of things. He wrote a couple of books. One of them is completely outmoded today and proven to be a complete fraud. But anyway, he only is a true atheist to whom the predicates of the divine being, for example, love, wisdom, and justice, are nothing. Hold on, wait. You're only a true atheist if you reject the predicates of the Christian God being love, wisdom, and justice. That's a really fascinating statement to make. Thaddeus, you're nodding your head there.
I'm just taking that in. It's a very interesting statement. He's correct, logically speaking, right? That you cannot have these moral principles and be a logically consistent atheist. However, 95% of atheists today would assert that those are real things, even though they have no basis for them.
Yeah, because they realize how empty I think they realize how empty, how morally bankrupt this concept of rejecting God really is, because you're left with an empty, meaningless universe. I mean, Dawkins has said so over and over ad nauseum. He says wherever morality is based on theology, wherever right is made dependent on divine authority, the most immoral, unjust, infamous things can be justified and established. This is him writing in his book, The Essence of Christianity. Most of the quotes I'll take today about this guy are from The Essence of Christianity. So
now, hold on a second here. He tells us that to be a true atheist, you have to say things like love and justice don't exist. Then he says that Christianity allows you to justify horrible, immoral things. I thought horrible, immoral things didn't exist. I thought justice didn't exist. What are you talking about, buddy? Can you be a little more consistent?
Yeah, I know. It hurts my head. It actually hurts my brain to think in a way that is so irrational, so illogical. I mean, it actually hurts me to think like this, to go like, how do you get to A from B, or how do you get there from here? How do you get here from there? It's like, how do these, oh God, it hurts. So, Ishak Ibrahim says, Lloyd, Muslims may not be happy. Yeah, I guess they're not. This latest series I've been doing on Sira International with Al Fadi seems to be upsetting a lot of people. And AP and Nuria Khan may not be very happy with this show. Now, why would you say that? Is it because I tagged her in the description and I wrote the description that was really on the nose? Because look, Nuria was good to me, no issue. But she had a guy on the show that was, and I'll say this bluntly, the guy was a propagandist. He was just lying through his teeth in a lot of issues. I took exception to a lot of things that he said, and her followers in the chat were pretty nasty. Right, I didn't go on her channel to proselytize. That's not what I do. I was talking about the Sharia and historic Islam, right? Whereas these guys were gleefully just bashing Christianity, and they started the fight. You start it, I'll finish it. I didn't make the rules, man. I'll just play the game. So he says, though I myself am an atheist, I openly profess religion in the sense just mentioned. That is, a nature religion. Hold on, the word nature comes up a lot when you look through. I mentioned it earlier. So he does have a... Thaddeus, your thoughts? You got that smile again.
Well, if we're basing our religion on nature, then we should be basing it on the survival of the fittest. And the most moral thing that someone can do is to eliminate the weak, infirm, the useless. And I guess they're trying to get around to that. Again, the Nazis did this explicitly.
Hmm.
We think of the Holocaust as being targeting Jewish people, and in the end, they
No,
were the largest
people in
percentage. But it started out attacking the disabled. The disabled were the very first people that
yeah,
the Nazis went after.
yeah, yeah, exactly. They started terminating pregnancies as well actually no, they couldn't do so early on because they didn't have the technology then. But yeah, they started to kill people who were born with birth defects. They started to people who'd been injured, the weakest, the worst. I mean, this was Darwinism, social Darwinism, taken to its logical extent. And in fact, prior to the Nazis, if you look at the fathers and the grandfathers of the Nazis, they carried out an atrocity, a genocide in Africa, in Southwest Africa at the time, Namibia today, where they killed hundreds of thousands of black people on the basis of Darwinian ideas. And I'm going to be doing a talk on that in the future. So these ideas are murderous. They're genocidal, quite literally. And yeah, and it is religion. I mean, this whole nature religion. This is very odd. It comes up a lot. This whole pantheist sort of idea does tend to come up a lot. Even within Hitler, you find this whole pantheistic idea that comes up regularly. Now, let me just catch up with the comments. So let's see if there's anything I missed. When you drop the logos, any leap in thinking is possible. Exactly. This is not logos. This is will. The disabled were useless eaters. Exactly, Arnold. Nature religion, eat others and try not to be eaten yourself. Yeah, that's Darwinism. That's Darwinism right there. Ultra. Hi Lloyd, I'm back. I'm that moral and ethical humanist that caught your last show late. I agree humanists have done terrible things in the past, but I'm not responsible. Yeah, but atheists will happily blame Christians today and white people for things done 500 years ago. You know, white people cause slavery. It's like, okay, this is common. This is standard. The woke nonsense. But thank you for being here. I do appreciate it, and yeah, we appreciate your input. I will admit, and I will say this bluntly, I am very impatient when it comes to idiots making comments. I spend hundreds of hours doing research. Man, you'll see me do 50 slides. Man, I probably had 200 slides worth of info, and I had to somehow get rid of a bunch of stuff because I couldn't do 200 slides. So there's more stuff that I threw out than I actually put in. So I go into a huge amount of detail on this stuff. I mean, I'm not making it up. I am showing sources. Well, I'm screen capping the actual books and things. So yeah. So this is not opinion. I'm trying to show sources, the words of their own mouths. So he's an atheist and he believes in his nature religion. So finally, Ludwig Feuerbach, if therefore my work is negative, irreligious, atheistic, let it be remembered that atheism, at least in the sense of this work, atheism is the secret of religion itself. Religion itself, not indeed on the surface, but fundamentally. Atheism is the fundamental heart of religion, you see. Not in intention or according to its own supposition, but in its heart, in its essence, religion believes in nothing else than the truth and divinity of human nature. In other words, Thaddeus, you see, you are pure, you are divine, you are God yourself, you are good. Good intentions. You know, the road to heaven is paved with good intentions, Thaddeus. You are that eon, you know, that when the monad was attacked and these pieces of the monad fell into earth, that is you expressing the essence of God. You are love and light. That please make it stop. That is, make it make sense.
This is the attitude that is kind of fundamental to all of the world's religions apart from Christianity, that people are basically good. They just need instruction. They need the right set of rules to follow. They need discipline, to be trained in discipline.
They're
And
robots. Are you saying they're mechanical
right,
robots?
once they have all the necessary ingredients, and the ingredients is what varies from religion, but once they have all the necessary ingredients, then they'll be good and we'll all live in a utopia. Christianity is completely different, and then it says we're fundamentally flawed. We're all fallen creatures that are sinful by nature, and we cannot make ourselves gods. We cannot make ourselves perfectly moral. All the religions and atheism and humanism, they teach humans can make themselves perfect. Humans can make themselves good. They just need the right instruction. That's all we need.
Are
Christianity
you saying they
is
just need the
alone.
Sharia?
Yeah, they just need the Sharia. And, And Christianity alone acknowledges the reality that human beings are evil. Human beings are imperfect. Human beings need a
Ultra, I'm going to say that, man, I did a series on the French Revolution, which was the very first atheist revolution. It was the very first atheist state, and this was atheists who murdered every Christian in sight. They passed laws that any priest or nun who would not forego their values and become an atheist and follow the will of the state was to be murdered on the spot, right? They murdered over 250,000 people, and when you tell atheists this, atheists are like, no, 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 atheism is the religion of peace. Those weren't real atheists, right? That might sound familiar to you. So, unfortunately, if you go through the history, you will discover that Christians have, while we're not happy with it, Christians have done bad things. But again, we don't claim to be perfect, right? And of course, there is nothing, literally nothing, even though people are going to lie about it, and maybe you will too, but they will lie and say that Christianity has doctrine that teaches violence and murder. Well, look, we can trace all of these claims historically, like all of this crap that Ludwig Feuerbach is talking, we can trace that back to the Gnostics. We can trace some of these ideas back to the pagan Greeks, because atheism steals quite a bunch from pagan Greeks. I thought it's scientific, but man, it's paganism. It's 5th century BC paganism that atheists really seem to love. And no, so I think it's been historically established. Atheists have done egregious things. The most violent century ever, okay, recorded in history was the 20th century. This was the atheist century. The atheist atrocities committed in the Soviet republics that were atheists. These were atheist states, right? Where atheism was compulsory, right? So unfortunately, atheism has been the most violent ideology of the last 2,000 years. Possibly Islam more, because there's no records going that far back. But Christians, we know that things have been done in the name of God that should not have been done, which violate doctrine. Because we have doctrine, we can say, well, these actions violated doctrine. They were wrong. These are crimes. These are sins and these are crimes. In atheism, please show me the atheist doctrine, since everyone defines atheism his own way. Show me the Bible of atheism. Show me the orthodox doctrine of atheism that says murder is bad or that lying is bad. Show me where it says thou shalt not lie. Bring me that, and I would love to say, okay, cool stuff. Except you don't have that. You do not have that, and the history is not on your side. I've done these shows. I've done the research. If you want to look at the most violent, brutal ideology of the last 250 years, atheism beats all religions in the world combined, hands down. It is the number one supreme winner by like 20 times. That is.
Yeah, I'll just comment briefly since you basically covered it. Ultra legitimate Christians will acknowledge that people have done horrible things in the name of Christianity. What you may be getting confused about is that Christians will also dispute that all of the crimes committed in world history are basically the result of religion, because that's not true. We're disputing it because it's not true, not because we're denying it. If no religious leader said, to launch this war, it was probably done for the selfish reasons of the leader, to get more territory, to expand his armies, to make more money from the serfs that he would capture, whatever the case may be. And if he tacked on as an afterthought, and God wants you to do it, that's not really doing it in the name of Christianity or whatever other religion he was a part of. That's just him trying to find a justification for his belief. The only things that you can actually attribute to Christianity as atrocities in Christian history are things like the Crusades, which really isn't even what they were called for. The atrocities are when people were they were called to repel the Muslims who were trying to kill all the Christians. And a lot of the people in the Crusade armies, they took advantage of the situation and they attacked random people who weren't Muslims. They attacked churches. They attacked, Eastern Orthodox churches because they weren't Catholic. That you can say. That those people
Mm.
were doing something horrible. They were nominally doing in the name of Christianity, and we absolutely acknowledge that. But the reality of the situation is that approximately 95% of all wars in human history were started for secular reasons, and of the remaining 5%, more than half of them were Islam. So you're
Yes.
looking at 1 to 2% of all the religion, all the wars in the world history
Mm.
were started by Christianity, and you're acting like religion's the problem.
Yeah, but this has been a claim that's been made by, if you go back to Baron de Holbach, like the first arch-atheist of the pre-Enlightenment era, approximately the Enlightenment era, he was the one that made the claim that religion causes violence, religion causes conflict, religion causes nations to fight, religion must go away for nations to stop fighting. And the same claim is made by Sham Harris and Richard Dawkins and others. And this has been, I mean, I could bring up the evidence right now, but we could sidetrack. But I've done other shows where I've gone into detail on the statistics, and it just doesn't bear out. Of course, not that atheists necessarily believe the facts because they don't like them, but yeah. Let's continue a little bit. And I forgot to number the slide. But this is the man behind Marx, Darwin, and Engels, of all things. This man was highly influential in the creation of Darwin's ideas, Marx's ideas, Engels' ideas. And of course, Darwin was not an atheist, except maybe he was an atheist. You see, because it's a little hard to get these guys to actually admit they're atheists. It is not as in the Bible that God created man in his own image, but on the contrary, man created God in his own image. Now, I believe we've heard atheists say that a lot. Man created God in his image. The Bible is actually man putting down his idea of God. Now, here's the thing. This is the guy that helped to create Marx's rabid atheism. Of course, Marx he was apparently a Christian as a young man, and of course he was then educated at university by an atheist, Bruno Bauer, an atheist professor of religion, who then twisted him into becoming an atheist, and he became violently anti-religious. So yeah, thank atheism for that, but atheists don't seem to want to publicly sort of publicize these facts. Now, of course, you've got this guy. Now, atheists will quote this guy, will quote things from this guy, but then they'll claim not to be socialists. Why is that? Atheists will quote Hitler, effectively paraphrasing Hitler, and will claim not to be Nazis. Atheists will quote Marx, Lenin, Mao, Stalin, Engels, all day, whole day, every day. They will quote communist, anti-Christian, atheist propaganda, and yet we're not socialists. We've got nothing to do with socialism. That's not real atheism. Bullshit. So, God is nothing else than human. He is essentially the outward projection of a human's inward nature. So, all those good feelings you've got, Thaddeus, let them out, because that is God within you. You know? Because you want to diddle a little kid over there, well, you feel good that's God within you too, Thaddeus. Yeah? Go on, Thaddeus.
Yeah, this is just a license to do whatever you feel like and claim that not only is it okay because there are no morals, but actually it's very moral, and to suppress your natural desires, that is what's evil. So when the Christian says that you should suppress your desire to have sex with everything that you see, that is bad. That is the horrible thing that religion is doing to you. You just need to let those desires out, and then everyone will just be so happy.
Yeah. He says a God who is not benevolent, not just, not wise, is no God. Hold on, didn't he just say we got to toss out the transcendent values of God, like wisdom, justice, morality? We got to throw those out because that's what a true atheist is. But he says that a God who is not benevolent, not just, and not wise is no God. Okay, fascinating. Now, to him, qualities are not denoted as divine because of their godly association, because they come from God, but the qualities themselves are divine. So if you are doing good, Thaddeus, if you are calling someone a bigot and a racist because they don't want a man dressed in underwear to fondle a little kiddie while he reads a library book to him, you see, you are doing good because the quality that you're expressing there, that this desire to do good, is itself godly. Isn't that just great stuff? You're doing
Yeah,
God's work there.
the Muslim, if we're being consistent here, the Muslim who kills infidels he's just doing good because that's what his natural desire is, right? I mean, he feels that really strongly internally. He's just letting that desire out when he's killing the infidels.
Yeah, so God is the principle of man's salvation, of man's good dispositions and actions. Consequently, man's own good principle and nature. In other words, so basically man made God. He basically he anthropomorphized basically his own, better instincts, supposedly, assuming we know that these are actually good instincts, right? So, but notice Friedrich Engels does tell us that all of the communists of 1845 were followers of Feuerbach. Now, I know that atheists repeat these kind of sentiments, if not necessarily verbatim. They certainly repeat similar sentiments, and yet they don't want to admit that they are actually the useful idiots of the communists. So, yeah, so all of the communists of 1845 were followers of Feuerbach. So he inspired all the communists. So these are atheists. These are standard atheist sentiments. These are also standard Marxist sentiments. So, yeah, make of that what you will. So, any final thought on that before I move on, that is?
Nope, you're good.
Okay, so secular humanism's founding. This is the Humanist Manifesto 1. So the modern humanism was founded circa 1928. I just rewrote a little bit of this, but some people were convinced that peoplekind, that's what Justin Castro would have us call peoplekind. We can't be sexist and say mankind. Peoplekind had just survived the greatest evil imaginable, which was World War I. And they felt that the future perfecting of humanity was now possible. Well, Islam also believes in the perfecting of humanity, just follow the Sharia. The Nazis believed in the perfecting of the race through creating the Übermensch. The socialists also believed in creating the perfect communist man and perfect communist woman. So in 1933, 34 humanists in the USA defined the philosophical and religious principles that were fundamental to them. It is called the Humanist Manifesto 1, and it defined religious humanism. Samuel Flores, thank you very, very much. I'm really grateful. So it defined religious humanism. So let's have a quick look at the Humanist Manifesto 1. So this is the very first Humanist Manifesto. And, okay, this is a product of many minds. It was designed to represent a developing point of view. In other words, they don't have any fixed morals. This is a moral system that's dynamic. It's subject to change. It could be different tomorrow. So don't depend on it. It's not your rock, your anchor. We might change our minds, okay? That's moral relativism. The time has come for widespread recognition of the radical changes in religious beliefs. We need to, the old beliefs are disrupted. So, now we need an explicit humanism, and in order that religious humanism may be better understood, we, the undersigned, desire to make certain affirmations which we believe, that humanism will, we would just want to let you know, this is religious humanism. We're a religious movement too. You can join our church, all right? And so there we go. So now they mention here, okay, life is changing, the world is changing, and therefore there's been an alteration in the outward forms of religion. We now have a new kind of religion, a fourth religion, if you will. And this is a new statement on the means and purposes of religion, a vital, fearless, and frank religion capable of furnishing, let me just go down here, capable of furnishing adequate social goals and personal satisfactions, okay, which represent a complete break with the past. So any religion that can hope to be a synthesizing and dynamic force for today must be shaped for the needs of this age. We're creating a new scientific Christianity. Such a religion is a major necessity for the present. So we're going to make a new religion. We're going to call it religious humanism. And of course, the first principle of our religious humanism is that religious humanists regard the universe as self-existing and not created. The physics has already proven this to be completely false. Thaddeus, your thoughts before I go on too far? I'll probably stop in the next few minutes. So we'll call it a day soon. I'll finish this one.
Yeah, here we're seeing the foundational document of one of the earliest, if not the earliest, explicit humanist organizations. And they're saying straight up, we're making a new religion. We're replacing the old religion, by which they really just mean Christianity, with a new religion. And we're creating it in our own image. We basically start with the morals of Christianity, we delete out God, and then we can modify those morals as we see fit over time. Because after all, ultimate moral principles, those change from time to time.
Yeah, no, exactly. Now notice they speak, the time has passed for theism. Now this is like Hegelian. This is the dialectic. Hegel is another major philosopher who talked absolute nonsense as far as I can tell, that heavily influenced Marx. Right, so you've got this whole Hegelian dialectic, all this nonsense. We've discussed this. Oh my gosh, and Arnold Nathaniel, thank you very much. I'm really grateful. Thank you, thank you. Yeah, so the time has passed for theism, you see. Theism is now past. And, the several varieties of new thought. So religion consists of those actions, purposes, and experiences which are humanly significant. Didn't we start off with atheists telling us that, we need to repurpose religion? There are functional factors in religion which we can borrow and use, and we can reshape this. Nothing human is alien to the religious. It includes labor, art, science, philosophy, love, friendship, recreation, all that is in its degree expressive of intelligently satisfying human living. So, it's functional now. It's not about God, it's functional religion. The distinction between the sacred and the secular can no longer be maintained. Okay. Religious humanism, blah, blah, blah. Ninth. Okay. The humanist finds his religious emotions expressed in a heightened sense of personal life. So, try our religion, it's great. 10th, it follows that there will be no uniquely religious emotions and the attitudes of the kind hitherto associated with belief in the supernatural. You're just going to do them in the mundane, the daily. You're going to find it in the kitchen sink. There's nothing transcendental. There's nothing, religion must work increasingly for joy in living. Religious humanists, blah, blah, blah. And 13th, religious humanism maintains that all associations and institutions exist for the fulfillment of human life. What, blah, blah. Does this sound a little religious to you, Thaddeus?
Yeah. They say that we're just going with the reason, we're doing the scientific thing, and here it is, our beliefs that replaced the old beliefs. What is our basis for these new beliefs? Well, we
Religion.
got a whole bunch of people to sign this piece of paper. That's the only basis I see for it, is we got a bunch of people to sign the paper. Oh, and by the way, the paper includes the line that we can change our principles and we're not actually agreeing to everything on this paper. So,
Well, yeah, actually, they state that here. Actually, hold on. Let's go to the Humanist Manifesto 2. Okay? They state here that those who sign Humanist Manifesto 2, now, Humanist Manifesto 1 had to change because the world is changing. So now we need new religious beliefs, Those beliefs were so yesterday, 15 minutes ago. But those who sign the Humanist Manifesto disclaim that they are setting forth a binding credo. Their individual views would be stated in widely varying ways. Like, for instance, this guy believes that torturing babies is okay. This guy thinks that torturing babies for 5 minutes is okay. This guy believes that burning babies is fine, but stabbing them is not okay. This other guy thinks that throwing babies down a well or off a cliff, that's okay. And then this other guy says, no, we shouldn't do that to babies. We can do it to puppies. So, but I might change my mind tomorrow. And, so basically they can change their mind at any time. Thaddeus, your thoughts?
Yeah, that line there, I get what they're trying to say, but in the end, it amounts to, we're signing this paper and it doesn't mean anything. Right?
Yeah.
What they're trying to say is that this isn't binding doctrine that you can be punished for if you disagree with it. But the purpose of a document like this is to say we have these shared values. And then they put a line in that says, and individuals' values may vary. So what is the purpose of signing the document? There's no purpose to a document saying that these are our shared beliefs if you include a line that says we don't necessarily share these beliefs.
Exactly. I mean, they've just contradicted themselves. These people are idiots. Now, notice they say here that science has sometimes brought evil as well as good. Okay? Well, I mean, let's see. Okay, guys, pop quiz. Who gave us that? There's a whole heap of trash in the Atlantic Ocean, apparently. They call this whole continent of trash or whatever. It's a few miles wide. It's this huge floating pile of trash. Let's see. Did the Baptist Church cause that, or did science cause that? I'll take $5 to whoever. Well, okay, maybe not 5 Zimbabwe dollars to whoever has the answer for that. Okay, so notice. Okay, so faith commensurate with advancing knowledge is also necessary. Faith? What? Did they say they need faith? Did I read that right, Thaddeus? Does that say they need faith?
It does.
So yeah, I guess the science has changed. So so what happens in learning to apply the scientific method to nature and human life? We've opened the door to ecological damage. And here the propaganda starts. Overpopulation, dehumanizing institutions, totalitarian repression. Well, just so you know, eugenics and the abortion movement come straight out of humanism. Straight out of humanism. You want to know about dehumanizing institutions? Euthanasia, this is assisted suicide, comes straight out of the humanist movement. So, yeah, they created the dehumanizing institutions. They created the problem, but they're going to solve it for you. Don't you worry. They got a plan. They have a religion for you. Totalitarian repression. The worst totalitarian repressive states in history have been the atheist states of the 20th century, of the communists, bluntly put. And nuclear and biochemical disaster. As you know, nuclear weapons were invented in the basement under the Vatican. So yeah, you can't blame atheist scientists for that. No. Science didn't cause that. Biochemical stuff. There's a Baptist church in Idaho that created biochemical weapons. I'm pretty sure you can't blame science for that. Science is good. That is your thoughts before I'll finish
Well,
off.
I do want to be fair to them that they didn't claim these things came from religion. They did say they came from science. Very interesting that their scientific religion is anti-science. I also want to know what they mean by dehumanizing, because if we're just looking at this from a naturalistic scientific perspective, being a human means having human DNA. That's all it means. I don't think there's any organizations that are trying to change people's DNA. So they seem to think that being human is more than just being a set of DNA instructions, a set of chemicals and natural elements. They seem to think that it's something more,
You're not
almost
just
like
dominoes
there's,
knocking into each other.
yeah, almost like there's a religious value to human beings or a spiritual value to human beings.
That's why I started the whole presentation with the idea that humanists cannot get rid of religion, and they realize they need to steal from God. As one famous apologist was, I can't remember the name offhand right now, but yeah. A humanist outlook will tap the creativity of each human being and provide the vision and courage for us to work together. This outlook emphasizes the role human beings can play in their own spheres of action. Or as Marx would say, to each according to their needs and from each according to their abilities. I think that's Marx. That is, am I wrong in concluding that? And guys, I'm sarcastic a lot of the time, okay? Please don't take everything I say literally. I'm sometimes being incredibly sarcastic, right? Just so you know. Just so you know. I can read as well, and I can reason, but sometimes I just like taking the Mickey. That is, would you say that this is just a rephrasing of Marx's statement of from each according to his abilities to each according to his needs?
It certainly draws from the same mindset, let's put it that way. This idea that human beings are just really good, and if we just all really try our best, we'll be so peaceful and everything will be ideal.
Yeah.
The problem is, all these things sound great on paper. The problem is, human beings aren't like that. Human beings are selfish. Human beings look after their own self-interests first and foremost.
That's what Darwin
Even
said.
even human beings that are relatively good, the people that we look at as compassionate and the best of human society, even they are self-interested. So it sounds great on paper, but there's no basis for thinking that this can ever exist in the real world.
Right. Yeah. Lloyd, did you just upload while live streaming? Why did you ask that? Sorry. Oh, am I getting pop-ups? Did I miss something? So I'll finish this and then I'll call it a day in a couple of minutes, guys. So they stated that many kinds of humanism exist. Now remember, we started in Humanist Manifesto 1. That was 1933. Now we're in like 1971 or whatever, and we've got Humanist Manifesto 2, which we're looking at. And they said that many kinds of humanism exist, just like there are many kinds of genders. Lots of genders. The varieties and emphases of naturalistic humanism include scientific, ethical, democratic. Are these exclusive? Like if you're scientific, you can't be ethical, and if you're democratic, you can't be scientific? It's like, yeah, whatever you say, buddy. So anyway, you have religious humanists and Marxist humanists. Oh my golly. So looks like Marx is under the same tent as these dudes. Free thought. Now, of course, the way they mean free and the way you mean free are two different things. Free thinking doesn't mean free thinking. It means we are free of the constraints of the Christian morality. That's all it means. Liberal doesn't mean I am liberal as in I am receptive. No, 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 no. Don't be fooled. Liberal means I am liberated from Christian doctrine, liberated from Christian morality. That's all it means. That's how they mean it. So, free thought, atheism, agnosticism, skepticism, deism, rationalism, ethical culture, and liberal religion all claim to be heir to the humanist tradition. Humanism traces its roots from ancient China, classical Greece. Oh, they took a lot from pagan. When they say classical, please read pagan Greece. Paganism. Atheism is repackaged paganism. Please, we'll discuss as I have discussed in the past. So, let me continue. We affirm a set of common principles that can serve as a basis for united action. Like tolerance, So, sure, whatever you say. And then they speak of traditional religions, but we have a new religion that replaces traditional religions, critical use of scientific reason and stuff like that. We appreciate the need to preserve the best ethical teachings in the religious traditions of humankind. I thought they're getting rid of that nonsense. That is, but am I reading that right? That they want to keep hold of religion?
Well, they want to keep hold of the ethical teachings of religion. They want to strip out the divine elements and replace
I
them
thought it's
with
just a lack of belief.
Yeah, allegedly.
This looks like a parasite that is sucking out the core of it and then just living inside the host. This looks like the invasion of the body snatchers to me. Science affirms that the human species is an emergence from natural evolutionary forces. The total personality is a function of the biological organism. Great. Traditional religions are obstacles to human progress. These guys are not an obstacle. These guys are going to get you there. Don't worry. Ethics. Ethics stems from human need and human interest. Well, I'm interested in that nice bicycle over there, and I happen to have a bolt cutters, and that bicycle's chained to the fence. Looks like I'm going to get me. I'm interested in having that bicycle. South Africa is a very interesting place. For instance, people don't have money, people are very poor, so often the shops have basically sales where it's 50% off all shoplifting fines. So you try and take advantage of those opportunities. That was a joke. So ethics stems from human need and interest, self-interest. This is called narcissism, and whatever makes you happy and fulfill your desires. That's the thoughts on this, and then I should just wind down here at this point. Oh, the right to birth control and abortion. That's very important. It's religious to them. Birth control and abortion.
Yeah. Where does science tell you that you have the right to birth control and abortion? Oh, right. It doesn't. It's all about your own self-happiness. It has nothing to do with science. It has nothing to do with reason. It has nothing to do with logic. It's just, let's propose that everyone do whatever that makes themselves happy and pretend like that won't lead to total chaos. That is the basis of our religion.
Yep. Yeah. So anyway, so basically, understand eugenics, which has led to the depopulation movement, which has led to the whole idea of assisted suicide, which is exactly what the Nazis did. This is coming back because of atheistic humanism. Understand, this is entirely a product of atheistic humanism, the devaluing of human life, because you are holding back the species, aren't you? You are deficient. You're a machine that's broken down. You have no value. So guys, I'll stop here. Hopefully I've provided some interesting information. Oh, the Fellowship of Religious Humanists, Paul H. Beatty. Doesn't he know that religion and humanism don't mix? Because there was a guy 2 nights ago who was telling us that humanism is not religious, and Lloyd doesn't know what he's talking about. Okay, Lloyd can give all the evidence he likes, but these affirmations are not these affirmations are not a final creed or dogma, but an expression of a living and growing faith. The science has changed. Sorry, we've changed our minds. So, Thaddeus, your thoughts before I'll end off right here. Why not? We'll call it a day.
Yeah, a living and growing faith. Not a living and growing ideology or set of moral principles, but a faith, i.e. a religion. Faith is, in this context, faith is just a synonym for religion. They're saying these affirmations are not a creed or dogma. They're just an expression of our religion.
Yeah, so Righteous and Bruce 6, cut it off right now. Just stop. Okay? Enough. Whatever you're talking about, I'm not interested. Stop right now. I've left it too late, but really, no more. No more comments. Stick to the topic, or I will silence you both. So guys, according to, I'll open it up for a minute to the comments, but Thaddeus, have I made a case? Have I provided evidence for? Let's just say, I'm not going to say that I've proven, but have I provided evidence for the case that humanism, while it claims to be secular humanism, is actually religious humanism? It was founded, and we'll go into much more detail as we continue, as a religious movement. It was based on religious ideals, and it's a plagiarism of Christianity.
Definitely. Definitely. We see that in their own statements that they're trying to create a new religion. We see that when we look into the specifics, we see that they're trying to replace aspects of religion, trying to keep some aspects and replace other ones. Very interesting.
Yeah, yeah. So that's it. So hopefully, guys, hopefully you've learned something. There was a time that I was very intimidated by atheists who seemed to just have their arguments so sewn up tight, and they had all these fancy phrases, and then I just got annoyed. One day I got annoyed. Actually, one day recently I got rather annoyed, and I'm like, okay, you know what? I'm going to take this thing apart. And this emperor has no clothes. Okay, this emperor has absolutely no clothes. The history of atheism is one of irrationality, orgies, murder, genocide, political repression, totalitarianism, death camps, gulags. Atheism has nothing to recommend it. Absolutely nothing. It is incoherent psychobabble. Okay, this harsh statements, I know, but I've done hours and hours now of presented hours of evidence on this topic, and there is nothing good about atheism, and they will lie about Christian beliefs and tradition and history whole day, every day, right? So we can, the facts speak for themselves. We know there have been things that have gone wrong in Christianity. There have been things, at least amongst Christians, let's put it that way. But atheism has led to the worst offenses in living history. And yeah, so I'll leave it at that. Your thoughts, Thaddeus. Unless anyone has any questions you'd like to ask, and I will take one or two questions if possible. But hopefully it's been informative, and you can use this against atheists, not to use this information. The history is ugly. Thaddeus, final words to you.
Yeah, just continuing from what you said there, that atheism has led to the greatest atrocities in human history. There's a reason why this has happened, and it's not because atheism explicitly teaches to go around killing one another or something along those lines. The problem is when you remove the basis for morality, then there is, in reality, no morality left. They can assert that they believe that all these things all they want, but then they have to put in that little disclaimer. Some members may not actually agree with everything that we wrote here. In other words, each person is just deciding for themselves. And yes, most atheists are going to follow basically Christian values with some exceptions. But that's only because the laws of society are built around the Christian values, and thus it's in their own self-interest to continue to follow those principles. If they lived in a different society that had different laws, they would probably have completely different set of beliefs, even though they assert that, these are just moral principles that all human beings have in common. They don't even realize how much they've stolen from Christianity and how much Christianity fundamentally changed the way that people thought about the world. So you remove that basis, at least some percentage, maybe it's only 2%, but at least some percentage of people who reject religion are going to see beyond the guise and realize that these moral principles are nonsense. There is no such thing if there is no God. Yeah. And therefore, I should just do whatever I can to make myself the most important, most powerful person in the world. And that's exactly what caused these atrocities. They're a direct result of removing God from the equation. They're not explicit teachings of atheism. They're the direct result of atheism.
Yeah, there's nothing in atheism to prevent them from happening. There's nothing to prohibit them. Thank you, Thaddeus. That's really well said. Jordan asked, do I have any information with regards to the violence and the atrocities within atheism? You can have a look at these. I discussed in these shows here. If you go to my live tab, also this preview, it's a shorter one here, and you can look at the longer one, Scientific Christianity, the Religion of Atheist Socialism. And then, of course, you can have a look here. So these shows here on atheism, I go in depth through those statistics. Atheists will deny them whole day, but that's fine. Whatever. So Carmel, thank you very much. I'm really grateful. Thank you he says, thank you for an amazing teaching. God is in none of their thoughts allowing he's allowing sin to feed. Exactly so. So guys, yeah, thank you. If you have, let's call it a night. And Thaddeus, perhaps we can stream again on Sunday if you're okay. So guys, we've just looked at the Humanist Manifesto. We've looked at the founding of secular humanism. Actually, it's religious humanism. Let's be blunt. It was called religious humanism, just like socialism was Christian socialism was founded as a religion as well. Again, exactly like humanism, it stripped out the divine and it was using the corpse of Christianity. That's exactly so. Yeah, Carmel says science tells us what we can do, morals tells us what we should do. So guys, thank you very much. Hopefully this has been helpful. And this hopefully puts a new spin on the idea of atheism. We're not looking at logical arguments, we're looking at its history and the words of its own founders in modern atheism. These are top atheist believers. These are top atheist academics, people with political power. So yeah, and we're looking at establishing an orthodoxy, and hopefully I've started to do so in terms of what is the orthodoxy of atheism. And yes, it has an orthodoxy, as much as village atheists, and there are village atheists who will deny it. And thank you. Yeah, so that's it from me. And yeah, any last words, Thaddeus, or shall we just call it a night then?
Yeah, well, I'll just make one really quick announcement. Tomorrow I'll have a deep dive on jihad out on my channel that will debut as a premiere with a live chat. It's a recorded show, but it will debut that way so you can ask questions. So look for that tomorrow. And thank you for coming today. Thank you to everyone who supported Lloyd. Really, really appreciate it. I know some about Lloyd's situation. He spent so ridiculous amounts of time on this stuff. He's even with all the donations, he's probably making like 50 cents an hour or something. So absolutely, we thank you so much for that. It helps be able to make more of this content. Have a great week, everyone. God bless.
Take care, everyone. Thank you. Have a great night. And also, Merry Christmas and Happy New Year, guys. If I don't see you before then, Happy New Year. We'll see if we can stream on the weekend. Yeah, I forgot it.